Hello, world. No, that's not what we're talking about today. Today is about online privacy and security, specifically browser fingerprinting. What we have here is that browsers are now allowing servers that are on companies' websites to fingerprint you while you are traveling around the web. Everyone has this problem that uses one of the most modern browsers that the JavaScript and Canvas 5 is supporting. You're losing your online privacy because of this. Data mining is what people can do with this data. They know computers, they know what you have, they know your system. They can collect all sorts of data about your computer and assign you a unique ID based on this data. We can run tests for the browser uniqueness to see if the problem's solved, but when you go to a website to test if you're unique for that website, some of the browsers or plugins or extensions are going to say, no, it's not unique. But when you go to that website and it changes per domain website that you're going to, it's not going to look unique to the site you're going to. It's going to say, oh, well, we haven't found this in our database of lists, so therefore it must not be unique, whereas the plugin might actually be working as expected. So some of the places like the Electronic Foundation Frontier maybe can start posting what that browser fingerprint looks like in the end, so that you can say, "Oh, it's this," but when I leave it, clear my cache, and go back to it, now it's this. So I can see that my fingerprint's not the same. It's still within the website the same, but at least you're not getting tracked around the internet. So before we get too far into this, I'm not sponsored by any of these people. I'm not paid for any of these people. Always follow up with what I say. Maybe I missed some pieces of data, something important, and everything changing constantly with the environment and the landscape of the internet. Um, do your looks into the things that I have at the end of a list of, hey, here's places that I went to look at to gather information from. Always do your backup research from what I've done. And I'm not recommending to go download any plugins that you see on this website. Look at them, figure out for yourself if that's something you want to download. We can make you aware of what's out there, but you should double check and make sure that that's what you want to do. So, being indoctrinated into security as a programmer and an IT person um, and a director, you look at security across the board. And one of the things that I did on my own was I installed a Pi-hole. So I'm like, now that I've learned more about the dangers of the internet, how do we start protecting ourselves against it? Well, there's firewalls, there's Pi-holes, there's ad blockers, there's a ton of things, HTTPS everywhere. There are tons of things that you can do to help protect you and teach. So with the Pi-hole, and I'm not recommending that, I'm just letting you know what I did. I can block advertisements coming in. I can block malicious websites. There's lists out there that people go and collect, and you can review all the lists. They're freely and publicly available. Most of them. Some of them you do have to pay a subscription for, which is understandable. People like to eat and put food on their table. Um, so with the Pi-hole, you can block the websites and then say, see how you went to, say, Facebook, but somebody on Facebook put a link to this website, and you can see where the link to the website was blocked because this website is a scamming or phishing, or it has this data on it. And not only can you keep your environment safe, but now you can use it as a teaching tool. So you can teach other people and say, hey, when you see these websites, they're malicious, they're scams, people are trying to hack you. You really need to protect yourself. So once I found this, I went to a bunch of websites and started researching and dug deeper and deeper and went down the rabbit hole. I was like, wow, this is a very unique thing that's coming out that a lot of companies are doing. And how many people go, hey, my browser does fingerprinting, we're going to track you everywhere? Because a lot of this is a plug-in JavaScript that people use, or they pulled off the Canvas 5 that they're using. Maybe it'd be a good video to dig into to see if Chrome or anyone actually is doing this themselves. Like normal JavaScript and normal HTML already pulls back a plethora of information about your system that you might not even be aware of. It tells the operating system, the browsers, it tells you what you're using. It's crazy what they're collecting on the other end, whether you know about it or not. But now you do, because you kind of watched this video. Some workable solutions around it. You can use blockers. There's some out there that are being developed. They're not endorsed by most of the browsers. There's some paid for versions of it that were probably a little bit safer, but even the companies who are putting these out, like, they're still seeing what your data is, and they're still manipulating things, because so you have to have a certain amount of trust with these developers or these people who are putting out the data that manipulates what they're seeing so that they can't track you across the internet. Solution 2 is you can build your own web browser and not even allow access to this. But then you're out with JavaScript, and everybody wants to use JavaScript, and that runs on the client that gets downloaded. So what happens is that all this data is pushed from a server to the client. The client's interpreting it on the fly and processing this information and doing stuff with it. So it's an interpretive language once it pulls up. The HTML, all of it, in structured format, displays your web page. So if you build your own web browser, you can say, we're not going to process JavaScript. We're not going to process this Canvas 5 stuff. We're not going to do any of that. Of course, you'd have to be a programmer, and it'd take a lot of time to build one. But if you want to build a privacy one, it might not be a bad start, but I'd probably recommend grabbing Firefox's open source to get a jump start on it. Solution 3, you can pay a company to block. Avast.com, as you can see here in the link, provides a payment to block this tracking around the internet. You can use the Tor browser. They're known, or at least on their website, for privacy. And we'll get into that in a little bit too. So, in essence, you're the cash flow. So they can collect all this data about you, where you've been, what you've been doing. They can target advertising. They can sell all this information to companies because they're collecting it in this server. And they're profiling off you and your habits. Like, why aren't you making any money for that? These companies sure are making money off of what you do. If somebody puts some sort of middleware in there, and there's already security breaches all over the place. So if anybody's interested in that, maybe I can make a video in the future. But they collect all your data, and you don't even know what they're doing with it because you've agreed to things just by going to their websites in the first place. And some places do advertisement on it, and they do advertisement with companies because they do collect a certain amount, like when they did with YouTube at the beginning, when they actually supported their content creators. They got a good chunk of the advertising revenue when they made videos and put on there and says, yes, please monetize my video. So that they would get it, and they'd get money off of legit advertising. So, like I said, I'm just putting the information out there. But these are some of the good things and some of the bad things, but advertising is not about the fingerprinting. Using the fingerprinting to target you with advertising is where that one's going. So there's exploits with the HTML5 canvas element that they're using. And basically it says, what's your screen size? How many pixels are in there? They just gather information about the canvas, which, like a painting, is your canvas. They're saying, what's the size of it? How many pixels are on it? What's the color schema in it? What are the fonts in it? So there's a whole list of things. So when you go to visit a page, it goes through and it gives you a base 64 representation of all the binary pixel data and the hash of text encoded pixel data. So it's gathering all these elements about just the canvas for the web browser, and you can read more about that at Wikipedia to get into it. And then it says, okay, based on this canvas data, I can gather and relatively know that you are person A. And then it can say, what's your IP, what's this, what's that? Okay, based on this and the canvas information with the JavaScript, we can put those things together and form an ID. So for the fingerprint JavaScript part, which isn't the Canvas 5, this is now JavaScript that can pull back through. Somebody's out there building it, The library supports all popular browsers. There's a free version of it. There's a paid version of it. There's a list here of all the popular browsers, a picture on top of, hey, if you're using one of these browsers, most likely they're tracking you through the internet on the server side. Because that's not the client side, it's the server side. By using the Canvas 5 and by using some JavaScript, they gather all this information about your system and they assign an ID to it. Now, you could also use one of the less used browsers, but if they do implement it, then you don't have that security. Like LibreWolf, that's another browser out there that is more about privacy and security. The Tor browser that I've explained before, and we'll take you to that. No, they're not paying me either. I'm just letting you know other browsers and tools that are out there. So, like I said, fingerprinting should be unique on separate websites, so they can't track you at least across websites. Some of the extensions, when you put them in a browser, can actually expose you more. I was playing around and tested one with a Tor browser, and when I went to sites, it went from unique to non-unique. Advertisements started to come through on the Tor browser. So just if you're like I said, if you're adding extensions, sometimes there's unpredictable behavior that you're not expecting, but you think the extension is going to work this way, and it doesn't based on the client that you installed it in. So always do your research, do your own testing. Don't just rely on this. And if you find something, then just, hey, I went and did this. Let other people know. Like, share the information. So here's the Tor browser. I picked this one because, well, this is supposed to be the big secure one out there. There's also, like I said, LibreWolf too. So it was to defend against people tracking you and surveilling what you're doing. To resist browser fingerprinting. It's built for more privacy. So when I did use the Tor browser and went to the Electronic Freedom Foundation, it did say that it was a non-unique fingerprint, whereas some of the other ones weren't. But when the other ones weren't, it's because you went to that website for the first time and generated the new fingerprint with all of the different fake data it presented, so they didn't know it was you and gave it a unique ID. I think that if they evolve more, they were certified by the browser, so you could trust that it's not doing some weird stuff in the background, like trying to collect your passwords when it's your web page or something, because you never, I'm not saying they would, but when you learn about security, everything's like, what could they be doing? So you're always thinking about these things in the forefront. You should always consider these things, which is why you should never use the same password all over the place. So, places and where I went to and learned about things. Tech Radar was a great one. The Browser Fingerprinting Explained, great, awesome article. The Electronic Freedom Foundation. There's Browser Leaks, the Tor Project. There's checking your browser in different places. There's Wikipedia you can check out. So please, 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 like I said, do your own research. Things change constantly. Anything that could be working today might not be working tomorrow based on changes. Maybe the developer just said, you know what, I'm done with this, I don't want to do it anymore, and then it's an old version that doesn't even work. That worked yesterday, it doesn't work today because there was a browser update. So, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm supposed to say, I believe, like, comment, and subscribe. And I hope you learned something today, and I will do my best to be putting out more videos of stuff. Not sure what this full stuff is yet, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be around technology. Have a good day. Goodbye, world.